All right, now it's time to use our triangle tool. And in the center of this, I've marked it with a dotted line. You wouldn't have to. Your fold should be good enough. I'm also going to use a black marker. I would not recommend you do that. I would recommend that you use just pencil. You're also going to want, which is included in your PDF, this little mini template or illustration of what we're going to do, because this tells you how far apart you want each of your lines. But let's do our diagonal lines first. Here's my center fold line. I'm going to place, there's two lines on this template. There is a diagonal line and there is a 90-degree straight line. So from the bottom of this template all the way up to the top should be 90 degrees. The 90-degree section of this template is always going to face your center fold line. So I'm going to place my template right in the center of my paper, and I'm going to draw on my diagonal line. I only ever draw on my diagonal line. I'm going to say that over and over and over, because if that's the one thing that kids do, is they love, those of you who are kids out there, they love to place the straight line, which is a 90-degree line, up against, and they love to draw on that one. It makes it much more confusing. So always keep this line right here, which is where your 90-degree part of your template is. This line always goes in the center fold. So I'm going to place my template right up against my dotted line, which is my center fold line, and I'm putting the top of my template, the top of my triangle tool, right up against that line that I drew, which was my 2-inch line. This is actually 10 inches. And I'm going to draw my first diagonal line, and I'm going to stop at my 2-inch mark. Okay? I'm going to continue on this side, because I've always found that it's easier for you as kids to scoot this over than it is to flip it over and do the other side. Now, this part, from this point on, we're going to lay that triangle tool so that this point right here is right up against my 2-inch line. Not my whole triangle tool, because that doesn't work, because obviously I'm working on the diagonal, so I have to have some place for this tool to rest. And it is a little bit shorter than the end of my paper, and I'll show you what to do with that in a second. So what you do, you put your 90-degree angle right up against the line that you just drew. I put that point right up against that 2-inch mark, and I draw my next line. And I stop at my 2-inch line, but I have a space. So I take my triangle tool and I just extend it down. Just like that. Okay? Move to the next side. I just slide my triangle tool right over. I get this line, this 90-degree line, right up against the line I just drew. The tip of my triangle tool, just the tip, just touches that 2-inch mark. See how it just touches, leaves a little bit of a triangle off to the side. Just touches, and I draw my next line. Touch there. Then I extend this on down. Next, place the tip, just that little bitty tip right there, right up against my 2-inch line. Now I'm going to not be going off the edge of my paper. I draw my line. And I keep working out to my left until I have filled in all of my lines. Always keeping this tip up against my 2-inch line. And I have that little short one. Okay, can you see how that worked? All right, the other side, same exact thing. But I have to flip my triangle tool over. So now my 90° is down in the opposite corner. My line is in my center. This tip of my tool always has to touch my 2-inch line. Right now it's flat against the line because I'm perfectly square. Okay? Now you can see how I have this nice center triangle, like that 1-point perspective that we talked about earlier. The tip of my tool has to touch my 2-inch line. The other side doesn't touch. Draw my line, extend it to the bottom of my paper. Same thing over here. Extend it to the bottom of my paper. And I'm going to continue working my way out to the end of the paper. Always making sure that this line of my triangle tool is up against the line I just drew. Okay, so there I have all my diagonal lines. Let's talk a little about the purpose of this triangle tool. This triangle tool allows kids to be able to do this. So if you have a child that is capable of using a ruler and you want them to use a ruler, go for it. That's fine. But in my experience, I found that most kids understood this triangle tool where the ruler just always caused problems. All right, the next step is to do our vertical lines. Now we're going to use this template to help us figure out all of our horizontal lines. Again, if you have a child, or if you yourself, if you're the child watching this, if you can use a ruler, go for it. It works just as well. But the other option is to cut strips of paper. And you use the strips of paper to measure with. So this is a 1/2-inch strip. I have 2 1/2-inch lines that start at the back of the paper. I always begin at the back of the paper. And the reason I do is because I gave you a general space down here as about 2 1/4. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. It just depends on how you are at holding your strips and how you are at measuring. These strips give you the opportunity to do this project completely on your own, which should be your goal. So I'm going to draw my first 1/2-inch line using this 1/2-inch strip. just like that. I'm going to do the second one because I need 2 of them. I can line this up. If I can't hold this, I could always have a partner come in and hold this for me. If you've got a brother or sister or a friend or a mom or a dad who can hold that for you, go for it. So there's your first 2 lines. All right, I need 2 1-inch lines. So here's my 1-inch strip. Line it up. Maybe have somebody help you hold it on either end because they are kind of awkward. And I draw my next 2 lines. And my second one. So I need 3 1.5-inch strips. So I have my 1.5-inch strip right here. I need 3 of them. All right, perfect. There we go. There we have our checkerboard all drawn. Okay, when I come back on camera, we'll talk about placement of your character, your background, and things that we want to place in the middle ground.